to reclaim our youthful immunity and our immunity now in this day and time as we're coming out of, God willing, the pandemic, is hormone D. It's not a vitamin, Dan, it's a hormone.
True.
Theoretically,
True.
it's a prohormone D. Individuals with the highest amounts of vitamin D are those that get over COVID more rapidly. People that get the flu during the flu season, those of them that get more vitamin D in their systems or through vitamin and mineral supplementation, do not get sick as frequently, and those that are living above the 35th parallel need to supplement with vitamin D, pro-hormone vitamin D, exceedingly important, and make sure that you have it in an oil form because it's an oil-soluble vitamin. So D is definitively the bomb. It is the vitamin for the decade for your immunity. There's nothing that D can't help. It'll help your colon. It'll help your lungs because there are vitamin D receptors in the lungs. It'll definitely help the immunity. And it's very helpful for beautiful skin. So D, I think, would be my number one. Number two, Dan, if I were to think about it, let's see, D would be the vitamin. The mineral would be zinc. Zinc, very important for immunity because it's antiviral. So I love a little extra zinc, maybe 50 milligrams a day. You need zinc, zinc-rich foods. Make sure it's in proper balance with copper. So you've got your copper that you're relegating from your vitamin and mineral supplementation. You'll get a copper-free multi, and you've got extra zinc. Some people need up to 100 milligrams because they're very zinc deficient. So eating foods like pumpkin seeds, cage-free eggs, and a little bit of meat, maybe once or twice a week, will give you sufficient amounts of zinc. So zinc is antiviral, zinc is immune building. Zinc and D are the two biggies that I can think of.
Yeah, that's good. With vitamin D, so we were kind of talking about earlier how important it is to do all these different health hacks, but in a natural way, right? Like for me, it's important that I get vitamin D first off if I can get outside, get fresh air, and get sunlight. But then it's also important just to have vitamin D in consumption in general, regardless of how we get it.
Well, that's very true. But for those of us above the 35th parallel, and I'm one of them because I live in the state of Idaho, this is like vitamin D deficiency country. So you actually need to be out as much as you can, but there's not enough sun that'll give you that vitamin D. You definitely need to take a supplement. So that's where 2,000 to 5,000 IUs daily, I think, comes in handy.
Okay, that's good to know. And then you said preferably in oil form, correct?
Because it's an oil-soluble vitamin. So if you're taking it in a pill form that's water-soluble, you're not going to be absorbing it. Always take it with a little bit of almond butter, a little bit of olive oil, or make sure it's in a soft gel. Vitamin D is oil-soluble like vitamin K, vitamin E, and vitamin D. Those are the biggies.
It's super interesting that you mentioned vitamin D and zinc for immunity. I've been taking my vitamin D, zinc, and coupled with Quercetin for the last at least 6 months. And I understand during COVID, we have restrictions and lockdowns, and people are staying inside more, and we're not out and about in big groups. We're not necessarily shaking hands or hugging, like we were before. So I understand from that perspective of why I have not gotten any kind of common cold or really any kind of sickness in the last 12 to 14 months. Knock on wood. And I also understand there's probably a lot of contributing factors, right? I'm focusing on my sleep more. I'm eating healthier, but I'm also exercising more. But I'm also taking my vitamin D, zinc, and Quercetin on a daily basis. And again, knock on wood, I haven't had even a common cold.
No, I'm going to tell you something. On another podcast, one of the interviewers was telling me of a test that was done several years ago of the nutrients that were the most efficient at keeping the immune system at full capacity. And the most important nutrient was not what we discussed, but it was quercetin. So individuals that take a high dose of quercetin, maybe it's in onions because you're a big onion lover, or even in a supplement that you may be taking. It's one of the best things you can do to fight off that cytokine storm, the inflammation that can affect your lungs. Very good to ward off any type of prostate or breast cancer. So it's a real must, and I'm glad it's come to the forefront because of COVID. How much do you take a day?
You know what? I got to look at the actual, I should know. It's just it's one pill. I'm not sure what the actual dosage is. I should absolutely know what that is, though.
I recommend 500 once or 3 times a day. So I think you're
Okay.
you're in a good place. Most of the dosages are about 500 milligrams.
Okay. So you're saying I can probably do that twice a day?
You could.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I got to look at the bottle. I know it's just the one pill I take each morning. I'll have to look at what the dosage is. It's pretty bad when you don't realize what you're actually consuming. I should know numbers.
We're all so busy. Don't worry about it. But the fact that you're taking quercetin is excellent. I talk about that in my Immunity is Everything chapter as one of the top nutrients that you can take to affect your immunity with that vitamin D and with zinc. And of course, vitamin C, which is the premier antioxidant of all.